Well, they're wrong. There's only one brew that gets my seal of approval. Deadly Grounds coffee is my guilty pleasure. The aroma is so intoxicating. It brings all of my neighbors out of the woodwork. Deadly Grounds coffee. Coffee to die for and zombie approved. It's good to get a little deadly. Use the front door! Oh, they're so disgusting.
The Dorkening and all affiliated shows are not intended for anyone under the age of 18. The following may contain discussions or scenes that have adult situations, graphic violence, nudity, strong sexual content, and graphic language. This show is intended for mature audiences only. Viewer discretion is advised.
Ladies and gentlemen, the motion picture you're about to see contains scenes so terrifying the public must be given grave warning.
Hello and good evening. Welcome to the Bloody Binge Movie Podcast. I am your host, Sewer Dweller, and we are coming to you live from a very frigid, very cold Dayton, Ohio, where tonight Hell's Dungeon will be open. We have our movie Mayhem Haunt tonight, where you come out, you can see your favorite movie characters. And then tomorrow night, we have our Christmas Haunt, Holiday in Peril, I think is what they're calling it this year. Not to mention Breakfast with the Grinch tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. But I digress. I will not be there for any of those, unfortunately. I don't know if I ever said it on the podcast or not, but I have retired from haunting. I'm somebody who believes in fate. I made a statement at the beginning of the season that said if I didn't win an award this year, that would be fate telling me that I'm not supposed to keep going. I'm not supposed to keep haunting. So I did not win any awards, which I'm okay with because I really didn't deserve one. And if I had won one, I probably would have turned it down. So yes, unfortunately, I am retired from haunting, but I will still help promote Hell's Dungeon. I will help Hell's Dungeon to, in any way I can with any of my connections and that. But we're not here to talk about that. We're here to talk about Psycho Santa. By the way, it is Friday the 13th. Merry Friday the 13th. One of my favorite holidays. I have a night of Jason movies to be watching tonight, maybe even the series. But I'm looking forward to it. This is one of my favorite days. I always enjoy Friday the 13th because I like to just stay in bed and watch horror movies and things like that. But today on the show, we are going to be watching the 2003 movie Psycho Santa. I'd have to say ultra low budget movie from 2003. Basically about a couple. We'll get to that. We'll get to that part. Things going on here on the podcast. We still got a couple more weeks of Christmas horror movies to go through. We got the Dayton Christmas Killings coming up on Shivers at some point. We haven't really talked, Matt and I haven't really talked about when we're going to do the next episode of Hardcore Heels, but it is coming, hopefully. The first 3 episodes of Raw, of course, and just a bunch of stuff going on. Maybe even next year. doing if we can get enough listeners and let enough participation, maybe do something next year. We have a tournament of the worst movies on that have appeared that we've covered here on the Bloody Binge. So we are coming up on a year in April or like late March, early April. We are coming up on 1 year of the Bloody Binge, and I've had a blast doing this. I know it's hard to listen to one person talk, especially I know a lot of people tell me I need to get a webcam and that, which I'm working on. I am working on getting a webcam, but I know it's really hard to just focus on one person and listen to one person talk for 2 to 3 hours about a movie, about horror movies and stuff. But hopefully everybody's enjoyed what they've listened to on here so far. But yeah, we are coming up in about 3 months. We're coming up on the 1 year anniversary of the Bloody Binge Movie Podcast. Of course, we do not just do horror movies. We do comedies. We do cult movies. We do action movies. We do classic movies, grindhouse movies, like just movies in general. But our main expertise and our main focus is, of course, on the horror movie industry. Um, but like as you've seen before, we have thrown in like Rocky Horror Picture Show, our lost. That is going to be considered our lost episode, as we could not put it on YouTube, and I think most places have taken it down. I still have a copy of it that I might put out there somewhere eventually. Um, Not on YouTube, of course, because YouTube's going to immediately flag it, but I'll figure out something to do with it. But we've done Rocky Horror, we've done Madhouse a couple of weeks ago. We've done Body Slam, which is our first episode. Because our first episode was the Friday, the day before WrestleMania 40. Was our first episode. We did Body Slam. We've done Moving Violations and a bunch of other. We did Rollerblade. But hopefully we can get enough participation. We can do like a tournament of the what is the worst movie we've covered in the past year. Um, Come around like March or April. And my money's still gonna be on Amityville Thanksgiving. That movie was so bad. Um, but yes, Psycho Santa. We're gonna do this. We're gonna tackle this and deep dive this after the break. But first, as always, it is time for the haunt and horror movie news segment of our broadcast. So again, not much haunt news. Like I've said before, and like I've said week after week, it's really hard to get haunt news this time of year. Um, Mainly because again, all the haunts are really preparing for their Christmas haunts, or they're shut down for the season. And a lot of haunts won't start planning for next year until after the holidays. Maybe even a lot of I know the haunt I used to work for back in Virginia, we wouldn't even start planning until May or June. Is when we would start planning, and then we'd go out there and build and everything like that, and clean up the woods and that. Um, but yeah, it's just that this time of year, so there's not much haunt news. There's going to be a little bit of horror movie news. There's a few things to talk about horror movie wise, and we'll see what else we can come up with if we have the time. But our first story, we go down to Tampa Bay, Tampa, Florida, because Busch Gardens faces a multi-million-dollar verdict in an injury case. This is actually the first I've heard of this. This is a story that was put out on November 27th, and I missed it. It flew under my radar until recently. But a jury in Florida has ordered United Parks to pay more than $5 million to the family of a 12-year-old who was injured during Hollow Scream at Busch Gardens, Tampa Bay in 2022. In September of 2022, a 12-year-old boy was injured at Busch Gardens, Tampa Bay during the Hollow Scream Halloween event. The boy entered the Stanleyville Theater, which the family's attorneys say was left unlocked and unattended, and went onto the stage and an acrobatic trampoline. He basically, as he was jumping on the trampoline, he fell off the stage and suffered blunt force trauma to his chin, liver, and right kidney, which resulted in kidney failure. Um, so this article is from the Tampa Bay Times. A jury ruled in a Florida family's favor by returning a verdict a more than $8 million verdict against Busch Gardens, Tampa Bay, after they sued the amusement park over how their child was permanently injured from a fall during a Halloween festival, attorneys announced. Busch Gardens' negligence was the main cause of the 12-year-old boy's injuries, the Hillsborough County jury decided, according to a verdict from form dated November 20th. The Tampa amusement park was accused of leaving the doors to the park's Stanleyville Theater unlocked during the Howl-O-Scream September 2022 Halloween event when the child entered the theater and got on a stage and an acrobatic trampoline, according to Morgan and Morgan, which represented the family. The boy fell off the trampoline, which was on the stage, and onto a metal object. The family's lawsuit, filed in March of 2023, says this resulted in blunt force trauma and lacerations to his right kidney, chin, and liver, according to Morgan and Morgan. His kidney stopped functioning as a result, the firm said in a Monday news release. The case resulted in the jury awarding the family an $8,154,350.75 verdict, according to the firm. Busch Gardens is to pay the family $5,300,328 because the jury found the family was partly responsible for the boy's injuries, but to a lesser degree, Morgan and Morgan said. The amusement park and its attorney didn't immediately respond to McClatchy News's requests for comment Tuesday. The jury decided that Busch Gardens was 65% liable and the plaintiffs were 35% liable, according to the verdict. A young child will now have to endure renal protective measures for the rest of his life, limiting what he can eat, what sports he can play, and what medications he can take, Morgan and Morgan founder John Morgan and attorney Paul Fulmer said in a statement. We are glad the jury was able to recognize the amusement park's role in causing our clients lifelong injuries and provided him with the justice he deserves, Morgan and Fulmer said. I'm mixed on this. I don't agree with it. In all honesty, I don't know if I fully agree with it. Because if you were watching your 12-year-old kid to begin with, he wouldn't have broke into a theater he wasn't supposed to be in. Not that, Busch Gardens is I guess a little bit liable for leaving the doors unlocked, but I promise that employee's fired. But it's I don't see how it's mostly their fault. The kid is 12. There's a reason. Basically, I'm starting out. There's a reason why these a lot of more amusement parks and a lot more haunted attractions and malls and big places like that are not allowing teenagers to be or kids to be in the malls, in the entertainment areas, basically on their property without parental supervision anymore. And this is one of them. There is a haunt in Indiana. I cannot remember for the life of me what the name of it was. But the same thing happened to them where somebody broke in, and they didn't leave anything unlocked. The kid broke in, got on one of the trampolines or got on something, was screwing around basically. After the park was closed, it was like in the middle of the night. Park was closed, everything's locked up. Kid just climbed a fence or something, and was messing around in the park and ended up falling, breaking his arm or hurting himself. And the family tried to sue, but they lost. Because he wasn't supposed to be there, and they have the same argument that this family does, to where they feel the Busch Gardens is responsible because they left the freaking door open. But if you were watching your kid to begin with, he wouldn't have ran into a building that was closed. So yeah, I don't see how there's 65. I don't think this gets past an appeals court, in all honesty. And that's why we have the appeals process. But I don't see it getting past an appeals court. So we'll see what happens. But that Indiana park ended up getting shut down. They got sued, but it ended up being shut down, not because of what the kid did or the parents, or for being sued or anything, but because the insurance company wouldn't cover them now. wouldn't cover them at all. Like they couldn't find an insurance company, and in any business, if you don't have insurance, um, you're kind of screwed because you're gonna get sued. You're gonna get sued eventually, and you need insurance to cover it. So yeah, that haunt had to close down because some kid broke into their property. Was in their property unattended, uh, without permission, and hurt himself. But now the insurance company won't touch him with a 20-foot pole. But moving on, registration for seminars and daily events is now open for Trans World Halloween and Attraction Show in St. Louis, Missouri, happening February 27th through March 2nd. Um, Lost my place, sorry. At the Americas Center, Transworld's Halloween and Attraction Show features daily networking events and seminars by top industry professionals. Educational presentations and workshops cover many facets of the industry, from makeup to safety to business. Highlights include the Haunted Attraction Association Presentations Chaos Safety Course on Thursday, February 27th at 8:30 a.m. and Insuring the Scare, Making Your Haunt an Insurance All-Star on Thursday, February 27th at 4:15. Daily networking event highlights include the City Museum Party on Thursday, February 27th at 7:30 p.m. and the Zombie Prom on Saturday, March 1st at 8 p.m. Tickets are on sale now. Individual classes range from $55 to $80 pre-sale, and seminar packages are available for multiple classes. So I got the web page up. The Trans World's Networking Night Out Wednesday, 7:30 p.m. to 11 p.m. Holiday and Ballroom. 75 attendance pre-show, $90 on site. But then the networking table topics and cover all industries: Halloween, haunt, Christmas, interactive entertainment, and more. And will include, but not limited to, the following topics: marketing, getting started in the industry, day-to-day business, scenic and lighting design, tech talk, customer service, booking software and ticketing, corporate and special events, puzzle and game design, ask the expert, immersive environments, expansion, management and employees, buying and selling, partnerships and collaborations, open conversation. Each table will have 1 to 3 topic specific facilitators who will keep the conversation focused. Seating is extremely limited, so register ASAP. Then on Thursday, February 27th, you have the City Museum Party. It is $60 to attend, $75 on site. Let's see. Always popular City Museum Party is back and is completely private. Join us for an evening of fun with friends and fellow attendees as we enjoy the entire museum to ourselves. Your ticket, which is valid for purchases made on or before February 20th, includes your choice of a delicious hot dog, a large hot pretzel, large popcorn, nachos, or a slice of pizza. You can redeem the pretzel and hot dog at guard dogs on the second floor, popcorn and baby elephant on the third floor, nachos at Beatnik Bob's on the third floor, and pizza at the Lizard Lounge on the mezzanine level. Additionally, we will provide complimentary soda for all guests. Don't miss out on this exclusive event. And it actually says new for 2024, but the dates are 2025. The Science of Guinness World Records exhibit in Architecture Hall. I don't know if that's still going or not, but it could be. DJ Psych Jam from Basement of the Dead playing music on the third floor in front of the castle between 7:30 and 11:30 p.m. Cash bars will be available in the following locations: the Cabin Inn, Full Bar, first floor, Lizard Lounge Bar. I'm not going to read all these, but there's a bunch of bars on each floor, basically. You have the Vampire Circus, which appears to be $50 general admission, $60 for premiere, $65 on site, $75 for premiere at the door. So there's always a lot going on at Trains World. I'll be here all night if I read all this. You got the zombie prom, and of course, as always, you also have they do a big like bus tour to different haunts in the area uh every year. So yeah, get in on that if you can get to the only I don't know if Transworld still does it or not. I know Transworld used to have a rule where you had to prove you were in the industry before you could get a ticket. You could not buy a ticket without it. Um, so again, that for me, that is a that's a bucket list thing for me. I would love to get down to Transworld eventually. But moving on, we reported on this back in October. Um, how a young boy, or that was, it was two young boys in two different haunts, that were killed by the hay wagon ran them over. Um, well, the Stearns County Sheriff's Office has closed the case on the 13-year-old boy who was crushed under a tractor at Harvest of Horror Haunted Hayride in St. Augusta, Minnesota. I think the other one was in like Milwaukee. This past October, no charges are expected to be filed in the death of volunteer scare actor Alexander Mick. The Midwest Medical Examiner's Office listed the manner of death as accidental and the cause of death as blunt force trauma to the head. According to a newly released report from the Stearns County Sheriff's Department, several employees expressed concerns over mixed size and age. I did, I did myself. I'm not gonna lie. I would have never, ever, 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 ever put anybody under the age of 16 on a hayride. Maybe even pushing it to 18. They're very, very dangerous. Um, in the 10 years that I worked on a haunted hayride, I saw a lot of people get hurt, and it was carelessness. Never saw anybody get run over by the wagons, thank God. But people would get hurt, climbing onto the wagons. They'd fall off or something like that. We had to drag, we had to pull people out from underneath the wagons, before they got ran over and things like that because they'd trip or fall or something. Um, and there were rules that would not let most people inside. They weren't allowed inside the wagons for a reason. So I get it. I don't you should I don't think you should have put a 13-year-old back on the hayride. There's many other things that they could have been doing. But also saying that the boy was not always aware of his surroundings. Again, he's 13. One employee told investigators that on a previous occasion, she witnessed Mick reaching into the trailer from the side of the moving vehicle instead of the back, as they had been trained to do. She also saw him reach for the customer's feet near the trailer's wheels, which no, that's a big no-no. Trailers did not stop along the hayride route. Most of them don't. The trailer driver who ran over Mick said the cruise was set at 2.5 miles per hour. Mick was in the eighth grade I'm not going to read the middle school, but where he participated in band, choir, robotics, and soccer. According to his obituary, which states he was kind, very polite, unique, creative, investigative, and saw the good in everyone. So that's great news for the haunt. Probably not the best news for the family. Um, which I mean, I guess it wasn't really that bad of news for the family either. But at the end of the day, it's a tragic, tragic accident. Um, that hopefully everybody can move on from and learn. And hopefully, a lot of these haunted hayrides learn. Don't put kids under the age of six. Honestly, under the age of 18 back on your hayrides. There's you have other attractions. You more than likely have other attractions. Put them in the queue line. Anything, anything other than on the hayride, please. But guys, I think hold on. I think I do have one more. We have one more story from the AP. not really a haunt story, but it's for the theme park industry. Because I don't know if you guys remember, not about 2 years ago in Florida at that, I think it was Fun Zone or somewhere like that. I can't remember what the theme park was. Um, that video of that young boy who was just obviously way too big to be getting on a drop ride. And when it went up, he actually fell to his death, and I think he was only like 13 years old. Um, well, a jury has awarded $310 million to the parents of the teen killed in fall from Orlando amusement park ride. Parents of a 14-year-old Missouri boy who fell to his death from an Orlando amusement park ride in 2022 have won a $310 million verdict against the attraction's Austrian builder. Late Thursday, the Orange County jury ordered that the manufacturer of Funtime pay $155 million to each to Tyre Sampson's parents, Nakia Dodd and Yarnell Sampson. I apologize if I'm butchering names. Would not shock me if I was. He died on March 24th, 2022, after falling 70 feet, 21 meters, from the Orlando freefall ride at Icon Park. The trial lasted only a day, as Funtime never appeared in court to defend itself. Icon Park, which rented the ride space to Orlando Slingshot, the ride's owner and operator had already settled with Sampson's family for an undisclosed amount. The jury's decision confirms what we have long argued. Tyre's death was the result of blatant negligence and a failure to prioritize safety over profits. Yes, I 100%. The family's lawyers, Ben Crump and Natalie Jackson, said in a statement, the ride's manufacturers neglected their duty to protect passengers, and Thursday's outcome ensures that they face the consequences. The family will now have to seek an order from an Austrian court to collect their damages. That was 100% negligence caused that. There's no reason that kid, and I don't want to sound, pious or mean or anything, but there's no reason that kid that was that size should have been on that ride. There's just no reason he should have been allowed on that ride, and that's on the park. That's on the park. The manufacturers, I don't know really, but that's not for me to decide. But yeah, 100%, they deserve this. They deserve this win. It's 100% the park's fault. That either they need to train their employees better, or figure out why that kid was allowed. Why that kid was allowed on the ride. Because if you saw him, just looking at him, looking at the pictures, and I think even watching the video, I've unfortunately, without knowing, watched the video of him fall. You knew he was way too big to be on that ride. There was no way he should have been on that ride, and it should have been nipped in the bud. That's simple. So now, that's going to do it for our horror movie haunt. What am I saying, Harvey? Haunt industry news segment. Let's move on to a few horror movie stories, starting with the Transylvanians. Next year is Rocky Horror's 50th anniversary. So in celebration of the 50th anniversary of the Rocky Horror Picture Show in 2025, Dragon Studios presents The Transylvanians, a Rocky Horror musical tribute film. The story follows a young priest dispatched on a peculiar mission to uncover the truth behind the mysterious disappearance of a couple from Denton. Their last known location? An eerie old Gothic house alive with wild parties hosted by the enigmatic Dark Lord Alucard. Upon arrival, the priest is greeted by a colorful cast of eccentric relatives and a flamboyant group of vampires known as the Transylvanians. These glamorous, twisted, undead revelers are devoted followers of the Dark Lord, embodying a world of decadence and bizarre charm. With many original cast members from the Rocky Horror Picture Show reprising their roles, the evening promises to be a riot of vamping musical numbers, cheeky horror, and irresistible allure. They do have a crowdfunding campaign that launches on January 31st, 2025 through Cinebacker. Let's see what it says on here. Yeah. Oh, there's a video. I have not watched it, but I'm not going to do it right now. Like it, love it, be it. And it's, yeah, exactly what I wrote. These what it says on there. So Cinebacker, go check it out on Cinebacker. Cinebacker.com/pre-launch/ the Transylvanians a rock. You just look it up. Transylvanians a Rocky horror. Was it a Rocky horror musical tribute film? See if I can show you the poster for it real quick because the poster looks pretty cool. Yeah, the poster looks pretty cool. There you go. There's the poster for it. There's Cinebacker.com, the Transylvanian. You can look it up, the Transylvanians on there. If you're interested in donating, they are like I said, it starts on the 25th of December. I'm sorry, November. November? Really? It actually starts on the 25th of, sorry, I had to delete that one from last week. On the 25th of January is when the donations start. So check that out. That actually sounds interesting, especially if the Rocky Horror Crew are down for it. Moving on, Peter Pan's Neverland Nightmare in theaters January 13th, 2025 through the 15th of 2025. It's only going to be in theaters for 2 days. The Twisted Childhood universe welcomes Peter Pan. From Jagged Edge Productions and ITN Studios, the makers of Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey 1 and 2, comes Peter Pan's Neverland Adventure, or Neverland Nightmare. I love this poster. Hold on. We'll get this for you too, real quick. Where was I? Written and directed by Scott Chambers, Peter Pan's Neverland Nightmare arrives in theaters for 3 days only, starting January 13th, 2025 until January 15th, 2025, only from Iconic Events Releasing. The newest entry into the Pooniverse follows Wendy Darling as she strikes out in an attempt to rescue her brother Michael from the clutches of the evil Peter Pan, who intends to send him to Neverland. Along the way, she meets a twisted Tinkerbell who is hooked on what she thinks is fairy dust. That's hilarious. Here, hold on, guys. While I'm over here, let me add this in real quick so you guys can see this pretty sweet poster. In all honesty, there you go. That is a pretty badass poster. Peter Pan's Neverland Nightmare features Megan Placido from the Salt Pass TV's Doctors, Father Brown as Wendy Darling, Martin Portlock as Peter Pan, Kit Green as Tinkerbell, Peter D'Souza Fayani as Michael, Kirsten Waring as Roxy, and Nicholas Woodson as Stephen. It is produced by Reese Frake Waterfield. He is the gentleman who wrote and directed Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey 2. And he is he is an alumni of the Bloody Binge Movie Podcast, as we watched his movie, his god-awful fucking movie, back in January, or July, rather. The Killing Tree. And is executive produced by Stuart Alston, also from Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey 1 and 2, and Nicole Holland, also from Surprise, Surprise, Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey 1 and 2. Peter Pan's Neverland Nightmare is a Jagged Edge production with ITN Studios and Premier Entertainment handling sales. Tickets for Peter Pan's Neverland Nightmare can be purchased online at iconic events releasing or a participating theater box office starting December 18th. Like I said, that looks pretty sweet, in all honesty. I love that poster. Like, I absolutely love this poster. And it sounds great. The Tinkerbell things kind of made me laugh. So we'll see what happens with it. But it looks great. It looks fun. Um, I'm looking forward to it. Uh, so moving on, Fangoria. We're gonna go to the Fangoria website. Here are the 10 best horror games of 2024 according to Fangoria. Let's see. Number 10, Slitterhead. Slitterhead is developed by Boca Studio, led by Silent Hill and Siren creator Kiyashiro Toyama. Again, if I'm butchering these names, I apologize. Players were excited by Toyama's pedigree, so Slitterhead was on their radar. Its central mechanic involves swapping between different NPCs in the heat of battle against monsters. Coming in at number 9, Fear the Spotlight. Fear the Spotlight is one of the many games on this list inspired by retro horror games, particularly from the PS1 era, such as the original Resident Evil and Silent Hill games. Here, Fear the Spotlight uses blocky character designs and a TV filter to invoke those retro horror vibes. Coming at number 8, Sorry We're Closed, which looks a lot like a Wolfenstein style game. This game feels a lot more like the original Silent Hill rather games than Resident Evil ones, as Sorry We're Closed deals with more supernatural and cartoonish horror than realistic. Sorry We're Closed gameplay involves switching between third-person tank controls and first-person shooting. It can feel clunky at times, but our protagonist Michelle can use her third eye to find demons' weaknesses to make the shooting mechanisms feel satisfying. Number 7, Still Wakes the Deep. Incredible psychological horror game that takes place in the 1970s on a Scottish oil rig. After a huge accident, the oil rig starts falling into the sea and monstrous tentacles begin to infest the area, turning people into monsters. Our protagonist Kaz has to find a way to stop the infestation and return home. This incident, along with Kaz's home situation regarding his strained marriage, really adds quite a bit of tension throughout the game. So far so good, not too bad. I've not played any of these. Number 6, on the top 10 games according to Fangoria, number 6, Hollow Body. Uh, everything you want, honestly, everything you'd want in a retro survival game, third person with fixed camera angles, puzzles, ammo preservation, and save points. There's even a first person camera option unlocked after beating the game for the first time, adding to its replayability. Number 5, Crow Country. Crow Country is another retro horror inspired game, but this time it goes for a more blocky aesthetic that reminds me of the original Final Fantasy VII. This definitely gives it a unique look that helps it stand out amongst other horror games. Number 4, Mouthwashing. According to Fangoria, Mouthwashing is the most unique one on this list due to its intriguing split narrative. The story is told from perspectives of Captain Curly and co-pilot Jimmy after their ship, the Tulpar, crashes. Even events seen before the crash are from Curly's point perspective, while ones after the crash are from Jimmy's, as Curly is severely wounded, unable to speak or move. That actually does sound pretty interesting. Number 3, Emio, the Smiling Man. Uh, it's a Japanese horror movie. There's not really much about it on here, just, praising it. Number 2, Stalker 2, Heart of Chernobyl. Apparently, this is a sequel that was 17 years in the making. But number 1 on the list, of course, Silent Hill 2, the remake. So there are your top 10 video games of 2024 according to Fangoria. Moving on again. Final Destination creator confirms release date for the 5th sequel. Give me 1 second, guys. Sorry about that. I've been talking quite a bit. The creator of the original Final Destination film, Jeffrey Reddick, has taken to social media to confirm that the 5th sequel, Final Destination Bloodlines, will hit theaters on May 16th, 2025. This news was originally posted in Variety, and it has been 14 years since the last sequel. The original came out in 2000 and was an immediate hit. Directed by James Wong and co-written by Reddick, the movie follows a group of teens who escape death by 747, or so they think. Death isn't one to be deceived, and it begins taking its victims one by one in a series of freak accidents. Zach Lipovsky and Adam Stein are directing Final Destination Bloodlines, which is co-written by Guy Busick, Laurie Evans Taylor, and Jeffrey Reddick. Plot details have been kept under wraps, but Reddick teased a bit of the plot in an interview with Collider last year. This film dives into the film in such a unique way that it attacks it from a different angle, so you don't feel like, oh, there's an amazing setup and then there's going to be one wrinkle that can potentially save you all that you have to kind of make a moral choice about or do to solve it. There's an expansion of the universe that I'm being so careful, Riddick said, adding, there's an expansion of the world of Final Destination that I think fans are going to be really interested in and intrigued by. When I say it doesn't add a layer, it's not just, hey, if you murder somebody in your place, you'll live. It kind of unearths a whole deep layer to the story that kind of, yes, makes it really, really interesting. So there you go, Final Destination fans. I am not one of them. May 16th, 2025. Mark your calendars. There's your next sequel. Oh, what do we got? We're only at 42 minutes. So moving on. How about the 2024? Again, Fangoria loves their lists. How about the 2024 holiday gift guide? So these are these are gifts. If somebody in your family or somebody in your life is a big, is a really big fan of horror movies, these might be some good presents for them. The horror holiday gift guide from Fangoria. First up, Paramount Scares Volume 1, 4K UHD. Fans can plumb the depths of the horror genre with this collectible box set, featuring 5 unforgettable films, all in eye-popping 4K Ultra HD, along with over 4 hours of legacy special features and expansive collectible items. Included in this box set are Rosemary's Baby, Pet Cemetery, Smile, Crawl, and Sweeney Todd, the Demon Barber of Fleet Street. I haven't seen Smile or Crawl yet, but yeah, the rest of these are good movies. I'm a cheapskate. I wouldn't buy a whole box set just for a couple of movies that I haven't seen, unless it was reasonably priced. And I would take a wild guess to say these probably aren't what I would consider reasonably priced. But yeah. And then, of course, Paramount Scares Volume 2, 4K Ultra High Def. Paramount Scares resurrects 4 spine-tingling terrors in 4K Ultra HD for this limited edition second collection of Scream Greats. Friday the 13th Part 2, Breakdown, World War Z, and Orphan First Kill. It includes an exclusive edition of Fangoria. Next on the list, Hellraiser, Quartet of Torment, Pinhead Slipcase, limited edition, 4K Ultra HD. This box set looks great. This cover art, see if it'll even let me. This cover art just looks awesome. Give me a second and I'll throw it up there for you so you can see what I'm looking at. This cover art is pretty sweet. There you go, guys. That's the cover art for the Hellraiser Quartet of Torment. I don't know if this is a box set or what. Let's see. Back to there. It is a box set. So in the box set, you'll get all new 4K restorations from the original camera negatives, featuring Hellraiser, Hellbound Hellraiser, Hellraiser 3, Hell on Earth, and Hellraiser Bloodline. Next on our list J Horror Rising. This is on Blu-ray. It's one of those J horror, like the Japanese horror movies that came out early 2000s with The Ring and other things in that. Again, the cover looks pretty sweet, but I'm not a big J horror fan, so I think I'd be skipping this one. Featuring Noroi, the Curse, Isola, Multiple Personality Girl, Inugami, and more. Can't really see it. Let's see. St. John's Wort carved, the slit-mouthed woman, Persona, and Noroi the Curse. So if you know anybody who likes J horror, that's probably going to be a really good gift for them, honestly. Moving on next, The Last Video Store on Blu-ray. A love letter to video rental stores and the B-movie treasures that line their walls. Cody Kennedy and Tim Rutherford's debut feature, The Last Video Store, is a genre-loving blast of pure joy, a real treasure trove for genre fans, both new and old, says Kat Hughes from THN. With style, charm, and note, perfect performances, The Last Video Store is a must for physical media fans. I love my physical media. I'll never give up on it. Next one, Godzilla -1, 4K Ultra HD plus Blu-ray. My friend loves that movie. It's already on. It won a Chainsaw Award this year, but it's also the perfect gift for kaiju-loving fans. You got horror soundtracks on vinyl. Scream the Game. This appears to have been put out by Funko. So there's a Scream game out there. Retro Rum's Halloween Collector's Edition. This is the Halloween video game and Ash vs. Evil Dead. I don't think I've never knew Halloween had a game yet. So there you go. Limited Halloween Collector's Edition features an assortment of collectibles, including some exclusive items that will never be produced again, bundled with a physical copy of the Retro Realms double feature, Halloween and Ash vs. Evil Dead, the game, along with bonus access to 2 additional DLC characters. Up next, Magic the Gathering. With Magic the Gathering's recent horror-themed set Duskmorn, it's the perfect time to get into the collectible trading card game. You can dive into the Duskmorn bundle, or for new players, maybe the Foundation's Beginner's Box, which still stacks a bunch of horror-themed cards. Never really got into World of Warcraft. Next up is a Fangoria Top 100 horror movie poster. It's exactly what you think. It is a bunch of horror movie like cover arts on a poster, and it just says, the name, like, top 100 horror movies at the top. So it's nothing special, but there you go, guys. It looks pretty good. It looks okay. Like I said, nothing too special. Well, won't let me upload it. That means it was a bad. Yeah. Mixtape Massacre. Game night goes gore. Mixtape Massacre is a simple, fun, and easy to approach tabletop game with both retro and modern day mechanics, making it a cinch to get your game night started. We got a Texas Chainsaw Massacre poster. I'm not a big fan of this poster, but love the movie. Um, Watched it on the 50th anniversary. And of course, Fangoria gift subscription. Give your loved ones or give your friends the gift of Fangoria magazine all year long. Let's see. Novel. I Was a Teenage Slasher by Stephen Graham Jones. Another great present for those in the literary world. I know a lot of people on Owl Light Network would probably like it because, they're, of course, a lot of them are authors. So I'll be looking to get some as a present at all. That might be a good present for a lot of people. Graphic novel, Count Crowley, Reluctant Monster Hunter. That sounds awesome. I'm gonna have to look for this. David Dashmalchian, the actor and host of Fangoria Chainsaw Awards, has a graphic novel. Another graphic novel, Feral Volume 1. Walking Dead meets the Aristocats. In this perfect new series for readers, in search of Don Bluth style artwork and pulse pounding thrills from the creative team behind the best selling Stray Dogs. There's a Stephen King 3 classic novels book set. The book set comes with Carrie, Salem's Lot, and The Shining. I Spit on Your Celluloid, The History of Women Directing Horror Movies. Another DVD for, the fan, documentary for documentary fans, horror movie fans, and that. Moving on, we have Alien, the official cookbook. That's probably just going to have a bunch of joke recipes in it. Here's something more along my speed. A NECA Chucky TV series 7-inch scale action figure. I love my figures. And this one looks okay. It doesn't look too bad. Of course, comes with 4 interchangeable head sculpts, interchangeable hands, butcher knife, syringe bundle, and an interchangeable burnt arm. Moving on, Fangoria issue 1, Godzilla tee. The Fangoria travel tumbler, rust palm beanie from Fangoria, bandana from Fangoria, and that seems to be the end of the list. So a lot of good ideas there for your favorite horror movie fan. But guys, I think that's going to do it for the news this week. Quite a bit of horror movie news. Not a lot of haunt news, but that's to be expected anymore. But we're going to go ahead and take a break. And when we come back, it is time for Psycho Santa. Once again, happy, merry Friday the 13th. Let me get to the right. There it is. So, guys, we'll be back in about 3 minutes. See you then.
Greetings and shabebans. We are the Retro Reductopus Cephala Podcast, a long-form bi-weekly show that celebrates all the things that made growing up awesome.
Well, that sounds good, but I don't know what all those words mean.
I think what Parasite Steve's trying to say is that on Retro Redoctopus, we explore a range of retro goodness, from toys, video games, and movies, to cartoons, and even snacks and school lunches.
Oh.
And we do it all with a positive spin, a slew of killer guests, and some very adult language.
And you know what else is cool?
No.
This crazy show is part of the Door King Podcast Network with new episodes every Tentacle Tuesday.
What's that?
And if waiting 2 weeks for a new episode gives you a sad, know that we drop bonus episodes all the time, like the off-format Crow's Nest and an interview series we call The Brig.
You can listen to Retro Redoctopus on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, or any app that's cool enough to carry the only show that celebrates all the things that make growing up awesome.
I forgot to bring my mic down. Welcome back to the Bloody Binge Movie Podcast. Of course, I am your host, Sewer Dweller. And tonight we have Psycho Santa as the holidays continue here on the Bloody Binge Movie Podcast. Psycho Santa came out in 2003. It is definitely an ultra low budget movie. After watching the movie, I kind of have an idea where the budget went. But it was written and directed by a gentleman by the name of Peter Keir. Peter Keir has not done much in the industry. He has 2 directing credits, one being Psycho Santa, and then another one 3 years later called Wolfica. He is also he has 3 writing credits, mainly because he gets a credit for writing. Oh no! Ooh, that was loud. He gets a credit for writing the characters of Psycho Santa. For the sequel, because there is a sequel to this movie. The movie stars Crystal Havens as Alice. 11 credits to her name, the last one being from 2020. She got her start in 2003 with a movie called Cadaver Bay. Psycho Santa, this would have been her second, maybe even her first one. Dead Clowns, Wolfica, Rise of the Ghosts, Hate, Arbораtions, Meanwhile in Mississippi, which is a short, and she plays a woman in a coffee shop. Tales for the Midnight Hour 2, and finally, Faces of Fear. It's kind of weird. She's not really one of the bigger stars of this movie either. Jason Barnes, who plays the Psycho Santa. 6 as a producer. I don't want producer. Here we go. 4 as an actor. Cadaver Bay, Psycho Santa, Aberrations, and a movie called Zombie Pirates in 2014. Again, this is a very low budget movie. Ron, who's one of the stars, we'll look at the stars real quick. Played by Jeff Sanford. 2 acting credits to his name: Psycho Santa in 2003 and Dead Clowns in 2004. Michelle Sanford, wow, they're a real life married couple, it looks like. Plays Jess. Jess is the wife in the movie. Again, only been in the 2 movies, Cadaver Bay and Psycho Santa. Um, you know what? This is Sequoia Rose Fuller, and I can't tell you which one is which because they literally, you have Sequoia Rose Fuller and Rachel Michelle Knapp. Both of them are credited as playing Sarah's friend because they don't give us their fucking names. You have Lucian Eisenach as burglar, Theodore Ward as burglar. Again, I can't tell the two apart because they just don't. You'll see. You'll see, guys. You have the only two people on here who even have the face shots are Kimberly Lynn Cole. 28 movies to her credit, starting way back in 1993 with Body Snatchers, Redneck Rampage in 1996, Search for the Beast, Monster in the Garage. She is an Odd Noggins. Is that the Odd Noggins that I'm thinking about? Yeah. I didn't know that movie was that old. Jeez. Odd Noggins is a movie put out by Joe Sherlock, which it's actually a really, really good movie. I not really a good movie, but it's a fun movie to watch. Cremains, Horror Tales 666, Psycho Santa, of course, in 2003. Then the usual Dead Clowns, Psycho Santa 2, She Returns, Bermuda Island, Bloodthirst, Shark Exorcist 2, and Bigfoot Exorcist. And finally, Eric Spudik, who played Josh in the movie. The only other one with a face, a face shot. 44 to his. His last one coming out this year, Prisoner Trump, The Dawn of Cell Block B. I don't even know if I want. I don't even know if I wanted that one. Night of the Bastard in 2022. He did reprise his role as Josh in Psycho Santa 2. Also in Zombie Pirates. Let's get all the way down here to the beginning. His first movie was in 2001, Micro Mini Kids. Zombiegeddon, Psycho Santa, Dead Clowns, The Good, the Bad, and the Beautiful. Killers by Nature, Dead Men Walking, Bikini Chain Gang. This dude was in Skinamax movies. Ghost in a Tiny Bikini, or a Teeny Bikini, Werewolf in a Woman's Prison, Halloween Night, Terror Tunes 1.5, Super Croc, Bewitched Housewives. Pretty cool too. 100 million. There's a lot of movies on here. And a bunch of them are the Skinamax movies. So that's your cast for Psycho Santa. We'll talk about everything, like the review of the movie and everything. I don't see much for trivia, so let's go ahead and get started with Psycho Santa. We open up with some festive classical music, and then the movie just opens on a junkyard while the same music is playing, and they're doing the opening title credits as this brunette woman is walking around a junkyard in a very shiny silver jacket. We then see someone in a Santa suit. He's not wearing a hat though, stalking around the junkyard as if he's looking for the woman. Basically, he's stalking. He's trying to find the woman. She appears to be kind of running away from Santa, is what I said, but it was kind of obvious, you know. She's not doing it in a very convincing way. Like, she's slowly walking, like she's obviously acting, but not doing a very good job of it. Let's put it that way. And she's doing like the quick lean down real quick behind the cars as she's trying to hide. We only ever see the back of Santa right now, so and he's got like the fake white beard, the fake white hair, you know. And it's basically kind of like the beard and the wig from the $50. Like they went out and bought the cheap $50 suit. But now we also see that Santa has a machete. And before we get before we get the title card. So he shows the machete. It goes to the title card, and that's it. Like, we don't even see if he catches the girl, kills the girl, nothing. It goes straight to the title card. So and he wrote down here, like, what was the point of all that if he didn't even get to fucking catch the girl? We'll find out later. That's spoiler, but we'll find out later. Now we open up on an old Christmas cartoon, and it's a really one of them really old creepy ones from like the 1940s or 50s. Of Santa Claus, like a giant Santa Claus walking around. You know the movie. It's one of those public domain cartoons that's like on every DVD or every YouTube channel that plays cartoons. And we cut to a guy, and he's wearing a very green sweater. Finally, after a minute or so, and it sits on him for a minute or so between him and the cartoon. It's there for a while. His wife, Jess, appears and asking, his name is Ron, she's Jess, and asking if he's ready to go. And he just snarkily answers like, "Well, I've been waiting on you." And a lot of us men know that he's going to be in trouble now. All right. And then she questions his choice about tires. So she basically does the whole, "You're not wearing that, are you?" I guess they're going to a Christmas party, and I wrote down he's in a green wool sweater. It's very festive. It's fine. She tells him that she thought he'd dress up more for the party, and he comes back with, "Well, yeah, we're going to a Christmas party, but it's Bill and Ellen's Christmas party." And she tries to pressure him into getting dressed up, and Ron just basically says, "First of all, these people get on my fucking nerves. And I hate driving all the way out there to the boonies. And honestly, I don't even really like Bill or Ellen." I giggled at that because I know exactly how he feels. Um, so now Jess does she does the whole, "Well, fine, then let's not go." And Ron reminds her that that's not what he said. She gets mad at him and reminds him that he just said that he didn't like Bill and Ellen, so why are we going then? Ron just says they get on his nerves. And I wrote down, and I already like this guy. That'll change, guys. That'll change. Jess tells him to put your best Christmas face on and deal with it. "Oh, so now you do want to still go?" "Oh, whatever." We get some more of the public domain cartoon before cutting back to Ron saying, "All right, let's go." And good for you, Ron. In the car, Jess tries to put on some Christmas music. It is "Oh Christmas Tree" to be exact. And Ron puts a stop to that shit real quick. She calls him a humbug. And Ron asks, "What the hell is..." See, Ron asks what that even is. Jess thinks it's a beetle or something. Yeah, Jess is not very... This is one of the very few movies where the female is not very smart, but the guy is reasonably smart. But Jess thinks that a humbug is a beetle or something. But here's what it really means. Leave it to the sewer dweller to look up the meaning to the word bah humbug. When referring to a person, a humbug means a fraud or imposter, implying an element of unjustified publicity and spectacle. In modern usage, the word is most associated with the character Ebenezer Scrooge, created by Charles Dickens in his 1843 novella, A Christmas Carol. His famous reference to Christmas? Bah, humbug. So Ron tells Jess that she's going to do that. Ron basically goes, look, when we get there, Ellen's going to do that mistletoe thing. You know she is. Jess doesn't understand because Jess is apparently clueless. Ron says she'll let Jess pass freely, but she'll trap him in the doorway and say, look who's under the mistletoe." Ron says he thinks there was tongue involved last year. Ron says, you know what? You know what I should do? I should beat her to the punch and I should go kiss Bill. Ron also says he doesn't know why. Ron also says he doesn't know why Jess wants to go to this party, or why she even wants to celebrate Christmas. Jess asks if he didn't have any fond Christmas memories. Basically, Jess just goes, "Why did you not have? What did you not have any fond Christmas memories growing up?" Ron says his mom told him that Santa Claus was this larger than life paranormal being with a long white beard, and it scared the shit out of him. Jess asks if he knows what they call people. Jess asks him, and I swear to God, he knows what they call people who are afraid of Santa. Claustrophobic. And I wrote down that I'm going to find this chick and slap her the way Stewie does to Will Ferrell in Family Guy. You guys remember the scene where Stewie, he's in Bewitched, and they do that stupid line of, I'm a witch. I'm a Clippers fan. And everyone in the theater is laughing except for Stewie, who gets up, walks out, gets in a cab, goes to the airport, gets on a plane, flies to LA, has a limousine waiting for him, gets in the limo, they're driving, gets out, goes to a hardware store, buys a ladder, comes back, gets back in the car, drives out to Beverly Hills, drives up to Will Ferrell's house, walks up to the door, sets the ladder up, climbs it real quick, rings the doorbell, and the second that Will Ferrell answers the door, Stewie just lays his ass out and goes, "That's not funny!" And that's what I want to do to this chick. For that shitty ass, worse than a dad joke. But they keep driving down the road, and Ron says this is where that whole Santa incident happened. The psychotic in a Santa suit. Jess says she heard he died, and Ron says, nope, he's still out there. And Ron decides it's story time. He says you got to go back a number of years first, back to when he killed his first batch. Jess laughs and makes a joke about cookies. Going back like 10 years, there were 3 girls who would meet up at this cabin every Christmas, and they'd have a slumber party. But this year, things went awry. And now we cut to daytime, and the female's driving along basically the exact stretch of road that Ron and Jess were on at that time, and they're listening to Deck of the Halls. They arrive at the cabin where the chair on the front porch is rocking, and they are both wearing long fur coats because, it's January, it's cold, or it's December, it's cold. No words are spoken as they walk around the house. There's a Christmas tree set up already and gifts with the 2 women's names on it. Spoiler alert, we never find out the name of these women. And as I read a minute ago, in the IMDb page, it literally just says, and I quote, Sarah's friend, under both of their names. The 2 women start to strip out of their coats and hats, and one is wearing a very skimpy top. That's going to be our brunette. Redhead says, let's officially start our annual slumber party. Their friend has not come out yet. Redhead says it's tradition to tell ghost stories on Christmas, and even the brunette doesn't like. Yeah, the brunette doesn't like the idea. The redhead has a tale of sprites and goblins. The brunette says she still has, I still got presents to wrap. I really need it. Redhead says that can wait till morning. It's Christmas Eve. If it's Christmas Eve, no, it really can't wait till morning. She needs to get those damn presents wrapped. The redhead tells her to go outside and collect 3 white stones. The brunette asks what the redhead will be doing while she's doing this, and she says, I'm going to go take a shower and get dressed in my slumber party clothes. So the brunette does as she's told and leaves. We cut back into the house, and the redhead is stripping out of her pants, And it cuts back to the brunette. She's walking down the driveway looking like an idiot. And then back to the redhead again. This time we get the boob shot at 12 minutes and 30 seconds into the movie. And they keep cutting back and forth between the redhead in the shower, and the brunette outside looking for stones in a small top and high heels on a dirt driveway. They even do a close up of redhead's. I wrote down they even did do a close up of redhead's breasts and the nipple rings she has around. She has some unique nipple rings on her breasts, so I'll allow it. The brunette can only find one stone in the driveway, so she goes and starts just walking down the road. When we come back to the redhead, the camera pans down, and for what I believe is the first time in the history of Bloody Binge Movie Podcast, we get full frontal nudity on the show. And redhead is clean shaven down there and pierced. You see everything. So we do some more back and forth as the brunette keeps, walking around trying to find the stones, and the redhead's in the shower, and she finally randomly finds the third stone on the side of the road. It's literally like in a patch of grass, where there aren't many other rocks around. But she is looking around curiously for some reason, and she finds a swamp. What I think is a swamp. I think it's just a lake with some like algae on it or something, but it looked like a swamp at first. Back inside, and and I wrote down that they are really dragging this shower scene out, as she is now lathering her boobs up. 5 minutes have gone by, and not a single word has been said. Brunette then just randomly starts walking back to the house, and we kind of see an image of a car in a lake. Guys, we're never going to come back to this. They just keep showing scenes of the brunette walking back and the redhead turning off the shower, and getting dressed. And we get more close up of redhead's boobs. And we know now we know where most of the budget for this movie went. I'm talking that it's a very long scene of this woman showering butt ass naked for the entire world to see. Where is it? We cut to after dark, where the women are sitting on the floor in their slumber party lingerie, and I wrote down, still neither one of them has said, "Huh, I wonder where Sarah is." Redhead says it's an old North Wales belief that on Christmas Eve each person throws a stone into the fireplace, and in the morning you sift through the ashes and find your stone. But if any of them turn up missing, that means that person will die within the next year. And immediately, I don't want to play this game. Finally, the brunette I wrote down, finally, the brunette asks about Sarah, and Red is basically just like, man, I'll just make one for her too. Don't worry about it. It was fine. That's when I asked for 3. Or she wrote down that's why I asked for 3. I wrote down, okay, then why did you ask for them to be white? Never comes up. Redhead tells brunette to find her a magic marker somewhere, and she gets up, and when she gets up, we almost get our second boob shot of the movie because she is falling out of that lingerie. They write their names on their stones, toss them into the fire. Outside, we hear the wind pick up a little bit, and then we head back inside, and the lights are on. The lights are on now as brunette is giving those were keys. All right, I found them. I got my keys. Don't worry about it, guys. And the lights are on as brunette is basically giving us a Christmas dance in her lingerie and heels. The redhead is literally sitting on the couch in front of her like you would see a lonely guy at the strip club waiting for his dance. They start flirting a little bit. She rubs her face. All that good stuff that the girls used to do in 2003 to tease the boys. Um, and basically, before we head outside to someone watching them through the window, we cut back and forth between Burnett shaking her ass to it's cheesy ass like Skinamax style music. And the guy outside watching her. You can clearly hear the breathing through a mask that he's wearing. And she's dancing. As she's dancing, she steps backwards, kicks a gift by mistake, and we see there's blood beneath it. We also see that the packages all have Sarah's name on them. And then from the distance, we almost hear almost like a goat baying. Before we cut back to Ron and Jess in the car. I wrote down, so that whole 15-minute fucking scene was really just an excuse for a lot of TNA. And I mean, I'm perfectly fine with nude women in my movies, especially my horror movies. And I actually encourage, more nudity in horror because that's what makes it fun. But come the fuck on with this. Because that's clearly what it was. It was clearly, hey, what can we do to get women naked in this movie? I know our budget is $5,000. Why don't we spend $4,990 on the women? Sounds good to me. Jess says, wow, so Sarah was in the packages the whole time. Ron says those weren't tags, those were labels. So yeah. Sarah is was murdered, hacked up, and put into boxes. Ron says those weren't tags, those were labels. No to or from, just all said Sarah. Head in one box, leg in another. Jess asks what happened to the other two, and Ron says the exact same thing. Guy killed them, cut them up, and wrapped them and put them under the tree. Jess asks about the stones, and Ron says no one found them. How do you know, Ron? Are you on the police force? Are you in the fire department? Is there a reason you know this, Ron? Or are you just talking out of your ass? And I wrote down, after Ron says no one found the stones, it's like, well, then how did anyone even know that they did that then, that they threw the stones in the fire? Jess looks a little disturbed as we continue down the exact same piece of road and over again, it looks like. Jess asks what happened to the killer. Ron says they got him and locked him up. Jess asks if he died in prison, and Ron wants to jump ahead to last Christmas. There was a burglary last year in the town they just passed through. These guys robbed a safe in what they thought was an empty house. If it was empty, I wrote down if it was an empty house, why wouldn't anything be in the safe? Well, because they didn't really make it too clear. But when they say empty house, they mean empty, not abandoned. My mind went that it was abandoned. So we start flashback number 2 as we see two guys in all shiny black leather. They're wearing black leather jackets, which is ridiculous if you're trying to sneak around because you stand out like a sore fucking thumb. In black beanies, they're just sneaking around into a backyard. They sneak and slunk around trying to find a way in. And I wrote down, let's ignore the fact that multiple porch lights are on, pretty much negating the need to sneak around. Because, motherfucker, we see you. And I wrote down, we just spent 3 minutes of this movie watching these guys slowly walk around the backyard, try to find a way in. They finally they pick the lock and they go in. And again, it's just more dragging on. And we'll talk about it at the end of the movie. But now this empty house has multiple lights that were left on inside of it. And now there's some random outside noises as they walk around the house looking for the safe. And they, of course, find it behind a painting. And one of the burglars is walking around when we see a woman walk past the lit hallway behind him and into the bathroom. We hear some water run as she walks back out with her robe open and right past the burglar, and we get a bra and panty shot. It turns out that the woman is blind. And again, we've gone 7 minutes without saying a single word in this movie. She goes to walk past him again and stops beside him as if she knows he's there. We now cut into the bathroom where she strips off her robe and we get a boob shot number 2. She takes her bra off, basically. So boob shot number 2 at 32 minutes and 43 seconds into the film. These ones are, I wrote down that these ones are much nicer than Redhead's breast. These are much nicer. But just as she was about to take off her panties, one of the burglars makes a noise and she goes to cover herself up. The burglar walks up and covers her mouth with his hand, and they kind of struggle back and forth a little bit before he dunks her head into the bathwater, drowning her eventually. And this scene of her drowning, it takes quite a bit. It's almost like a minute and a half. But now she's dead, and we hear a bellow from the dark. The burglars again go walking around in the dark as we still hear the water running in the bathtub with the blind woman's dead body floating in it. We hear more bellowing that sounds like a moose, maybe a deer, but definitely it's not human. And there's some loud knocking on a door that's, it kind of startles the burglars. And we see a door that is padlocked shut from the outside. So naturally, being burglars, they decide to unlock it and go inside. You see, like, inside, it's the basement. You see a bunch of trash laying around, a bed that's actually relatively clean. There's a box with like an old rotisserie chicken in it down there, and then there's what is it? There's like a handicapped toilet. Like I said, everything's relatively clean. We also see a tree. Yeah, like I wrote down that already. And there's finally some blocks that spell out Chris. Then we hear a music box clatter, and one of the burglars finds like it's the musical part of it itself, and it's playing Silent Night. There we go. Okay. Sorry, making sure things are working. I don't got the best connection tonight. We hear a growl and then a thud. And a burglar, and you hear the one burglar kind of scream before the final thud of him hitting the floor. And we get some like psychedelic images before cutting back to the car. Jess asks what happened to the other guy. And then we go back and we get more of a psychedelic shots of Santa stabbing him, like close-up shots too, of Santa stabbing the guy with a lawn candy cane right through the eye. Ron says the blind woman's husband came home to find his wife's dead body and the bodies of the two burglars on his front lawn. Chris was long gone. So basically we learned that the psycho's name is Chris. More flashbacks as we see the blind woman's husband is now being interrogated by a detective. The detective asks about Chris, and the husband tells him that Chris was protecting him. The detective says he was supposed to be incarcerated in a mental asylum. The husband says yes, but it burned down. Detective says, yeah, killing multiple hospital staff and patients, one of whom was supposed to be Chris. The detective says, if I'm not mistaken, you even sued the hospital. The husband plays it off as, I knew something like that would happen up there. He says they were overcrowded and understaffed. And the detective says, well, we're not talking about that right now. We are talking about Chris. He also says that many people were relieved to hear that he died in the fire that night. And, in the fire at the end, I shit you not, the name of that place was the Asylum for the Dangerous and Insane. The husband says, well, yeah, but now it's called the State Security Hospital. Somehow the detective gets that the husband does. So basically, because the husband sits and goes, well, now they call it the State Security Hospital. And basically the detective just goes, oh, so you don't think he's insane? Where the fuck did you get that from? The husband says, oh, no, he's totally batshit. Like, he doesn't say it like that, but the husband basically just goes, oh, no, he's totally batshit crazy. Like, this guy is a danger. The husband actually says he is the very picture of dangerously insane. So when asked when we knew Chris was alive, and the husband says a week later, basically the detective asks the husband when he knew Chris was alive, and the husband says, well, about a week later. And it turns out that Chris has a marvelous sense of direction and found his way back to their house. The husband says they knew he was insane, which is why they kept him locked up. We now cut to a guy. He's in a Santa suit at the end of a shopping center, so I think he's supposed to be Salvation Army, but he doesn't have the bucket or anything else with him. And he's ringing his bell for donations. A patient in a very clean hospital gown, by the way, carrying a plastic candy cane, is walking towards Santa, who has his back to him and has no idea that he's there. One whack later, and somehow Santa is dead. Somehow Santa's dead. I would assume maybe he stabbed him with the candy cane or something, but I don't see it. Back to the interrogation room, and the husband says, we thought of killing him when he came back. At first they were relieved but angered by his death. Then when he was back and nobody knew that he was alive, they thought he came home to die, but he survived. Then they procrastinated, killing Chris until they decided to keep him. Basically, they kept shit. I don't know if that worked. I almost just pulled my headphones off. Basically, they kept Chris locked up, and they're like, hey, one day we're gonna kill this guy, right? We're gonna kill him, right? Yes, honey, we're gonna kill him. It's gonna be fine. Okay, good. I want to make sure we're gonna murder this guy. I don't want to keep putting it off. So you know what? Tomorrow, we're gonna go do this tomorrow. We're gonna murder this guy tomorrow. Then tomorrow comes, and oh, you know what, honey? I think I'd rather just go for a walk. But they kept procrastinating until they decided to keep him. And he's apparently been there for 10 to 11 years and is remarkably clean. They went through great lengths to make sure he didn't get out. We now cut to Chris putting on the Santa suit. The detective asks the husband where he's going, and the detective asks if he could be going back to the hospital. The husband says he doesn't think so. Now we cut to a blonde woman laying in bed reading a magazine, Christmas music blaring, and we get some shots of Christmas decor outside of her house. the lights, the holly, or the garland you put up, and like those little white reindeer. My mom loved those when she was alive. But um, then we see Chris in the Santa suit playing with the window, and I'm like, just like basically rubbing his hands on it and that. Cut back, and the husband comes out and pretty much confirms now that he is Chris's father, not his brother, because I thought it was his brother, but it's his father. He tells the detective about his brother's cabin that he and Chris used to go visit with his brother and his brother's kid. We cut back to the blonde woman's house, and Chris is like starting to bang on the door, but he's banging on the glass with a brick. And I wrote down that he starts banging on the best glass ever with a brick, because that shit doesn't break until about the fourth hit. The blonde woman thinks she heard something and decides to go check as Chris pulls out a knife from a drawer. Blondie opens the door and looks out of her room as Chris walks by behind her. And I wrote down, how the fuck did he get into that room? I haven't the foggiest. Cut back to the interrogation where husband is saying that if he has the mind of a 3-year-old. Cut back to the blonde woman who gets dropped down on the bed, dead with blood running down her face. And that's that. Chris drinks the milk, and you know this because they added in a rather obnoxious slurping sound to post-production for reasons, which I wrote down as disgusting. And then he eats the cookie, and then we cut back to Jess and Ron, who are still driving, and he tells her that he's still out there in the woods that they are driving through right now. We cut to Chris walking through the woods in a very clean Santa suit for someone who's lived in it for a year or whatever. That he's supposed to have been wearing for a year. I wrote that down, and it's still very clean. Back again to Jess and Ron, telling Jess that his third victim was some kid smoking pot, and apparently Ron can't do math, as this would actually be his 6th victim. Cut to the kid walking through the woods, smoking pot, and Chris just whacks him in the throat with the machete. Like, the kid's just walking around smoking, going, man, life is... As the machete just comes out, slices him. Let's see. Then he stumbles around as a secluded house drawn to it by Christmas music. What? All right, then Chris... Hold on, make sure. I think I've lost my spot. There it is. And we get a and I wrote down, when he whacks him with the machine, we get a way too long scene of this kid dying or bleeding out. Then he stumbled towards a secluded house drawn to its Christmas music. We cut inside where Mom is preparing donations for the tree or decorations for the tree, and there's a son playing Jingle Bells on the piano. Here's Chris to ruin everyone's day as he stalks up to the kid and stands watching. The kid changes mid-song to Silent Night. Chris just stands there, mesmerized, drops his machete, and Jess says, I don't get it. And I say, Jess, join the club because none of us do. Ron says he had this music box that played Silent Night. That played Silent Night. It fascinated him and put him in kind of a trance. Jess asked if the kid got away, and Ron just goes, no. Cut to the house again, and the kid stops playing Silent Night. Chris comes out of it, picks up the machete, and we just hear the piano keys bang and see blood on the music box. Jess asks, well, what happened to their mom, and Ron says he left her for dead. But well, right, what's going on here? Okay, Jess asks what happened to the mother, and Ron says, well, he just left her for dead. But well, we cut to Chris stabbing the mother, but the wound only has a smear of blood on it, not as much. Like I wrote down, they use more blood on the floor for her than on her, for her to bleed out, and then on her skin. She starts to crawl towards the phone, bleeding the whole way. And this is yet another scene. Okay, yeah, this is another scene being drawn out. Like, she's trying to crawl for the landline. The camera pans her entire body, which, as she is almost in reach of the phone, she can clearly reach it, but just cries and puts her head down. And again, this scene is just drawn out. She reaches for the phone and pulls it to her, and the line comes out of the wall, which I thought was funny. She now starts to crawl even further, trying to reach the cord to plug it back in. We keep panning over to the ceramic Santa Claus for some reason, as she is still crawling. There is literally a 3-minute scene of this chick just crawling around. So she starts crawling, and after a minute or so, she finally gets there and plugs the phone back into the wall, and she fucking dies. Then the phone rings, and I wrote down, yeah, I don't think she's going to be able to get that. Jess asks what happened next, and we go to a brother and sister duo named Josh and Alice. Their car broke down as they were going to get their Christmas tree. We again cut to another car driving the exact same road they are on. We see that Alice is the woman in the junkyard who was running from Chris at the beginning of the movie. Josh, her brother, is bitching about hating driving to get a tree, and Josh says that she doesn't appreciate how much he hates this. She says, "Oh, I do, and it doesn't make me feel very good," and that she doesn't need to be constantly reminded of this. He calls her sis, and I hate that. I hate when they do that, when they just randomly go, "Hey, sis, do you get it? She's my sister." Almost as much as I hate couples that constantly call each other babe. I cannot stand that. He says if she wasn't along for the ride, he wouldn't be doing this at all. No shit, you hate this. She says, let's just forget about what we are doing and whom we are doing it for, and just enjoy a nice brother-sister outing on a nice drive. Josh says a nice drive is when you take a cruise out in the countryside. He says this place is like 3 fucking hours from his house. So he's still bitching. He says it's stupid to buy a real tree and hold up. And I wrote down, hold up. Why are we driving 3 hours for a real tree? As if there aren't like 30 lots in your town. I don't get an answer because he just bitches some more, and then we cut to the car broke down. Alice tells him She doesn't know why he even bothered looking under the hood because he doesn't know shit about cars. We then cut to a scene of them walking down the road. Get ready, guys. They walk for a minute or so, and Josh has a map. And he's apparently trying to find a shortcut. And he finds one, but he's like, you know what? I don't really want to do this. But we can see through Chris. Basically, we're doing the first person thing again, where Chris is watching him through the woods. She agrees. Alice agrees that they should take the shortcut, and Josh doesn't seem to agree. So, of course, they took the shortcut. We get footage of them walking off the trail and their boots walking through the leaves. I don't know how many people we have that, what is it? What am I? Yeah. Walking through the leaves. We hear a group of people singing Jingle Bells, but we never see them, nor are we told why. Again, they are out. I wrote down that, again, they are dragging the scene as they keep fucking walking through the woods and the mud. And I almost didn't write anything else down for a while. I almost just sat back and watched the movie because there's nothing that happens except walking. And the camera is only focused on their boots as they're walking. They come across a puddle and they look confusingly at it before it dawns on them that there's a good 2 or 3 feet on the left side that they could really just walk around the puddle with. Now they try to be artistic, like the movie makers, the filmmakers themselves are trying to be artistic, and show their reflection. Josh and Alice's reflections in the water, in the puddle as they walk away. Still walking until suspenseful music. Josh stops and Alice asks what's up. Josh tells her that there's someone else here. And now we get a scene of them staring into the forest. Like for an entire minute or so, there's just them looking back and forth at each other, and shows them, then the woods, them, then the woods, them, then the woods. Like, it was stupid. Until Alice walks up and asks if he saw something. He says yes, but it could have just been an animal. So guess what? More walking. Although we are spared from the walking by showing a shot of Chris stalking the siblings. And then we cut back to the car with Ron and Jess. Ron keeps the story up and Jess asks what Chris was waiting for, and Ron says his opportunity. Alice got tired, so Josh left her his visit, or his best, I'm sorry. He left her his best, this little inflated, this like, not really inflatable, but this like big puffer vest that he was wearing and went on without her. Alice soon followed after him, but got lost. So, all right, kids, more walking through the fucking woods. Finally, something happens as Josh finds a piece of white hair. It's actually not white hair. It's almost like the cotton from his big puffer jacket that his sister is wearing. Finds it on a branch, some on a spider web. And I wrote down, is this what we are dragging out now? And we cut to Alice walking alone and Chris pops. I'm sorry. We cut to Alice walking alone and Chris pops up behind her. And there's a hole in the puffer vest that she is wearing, which might explain the white stuff that Josh keeps finding. Chris is catching up until Alice randomly starts singing Silent Night as she walks away. Chris goes into his trance, drops the machete, which when he drops it, apparently it makes a big enough sound that it concerns people, because she stops singing and which alarms Alice, and Chris reaches out for her. He tears the puffer vest off in slow fucking motion. And I'm talking slow motion for no reason. She goes running, and we get the exact same scene from the opening of the movie. I'm not going to torture you with that. Alice does a terrible job of playing the victim. She did. Alice is not a good actor. There's a reason she was only in 2 movies. She's awful. But she plays a terrible job. She does a terrible job playing the victim. She walks away after Chris goes behind the car she is hiding behind. Alice decides her best option is to climb into an old school bus and hide there with no actual means of escape, if she's found. So naturally, of course, Chris hops onto the school bus. And we cut back and forth between Chris and Alice hiding as he slowly walks up the bus. Chris is almost to the back of the bus and still hasn't found Alice. And he finally gets to the back and she isn't there, which I thought was weird because we know she's there. We know she's in the bus. But that's when he looks out the window to a second school bus right next to it. And we now cut back to Jess and Ron, and he tells her that Alice got away. That's it. That's it. Our last vision of Alice is her just hiding on the bar, walking off the bus, and just moseying on away. Not running away, not walking briskly, moseying. Jess asks about Josh, and I guess he wasn't so lucky. He found a cabin and knocked on the door for help. And as per usual, the rules in a movie state that if you knock on someone's door and they don't answer, it's perfectly fine to just walk into a stranger's house and touch shit. Because the first thing Josh does is grab a snow globe. He turns the lights on in the room, jumps up, and yells, "Jesus!" And then the camera pans to see the show is Jesus, the baby Jesus in the manger. And the only thing you can do is go, "Ha." Yeah, that wasn't funny. He opens the bathroom door and he finds a mutilated body. He turns around, stumbles out, turns the faucet on as he's basically about to vomit, and he ends up passing out on the floor, leaving the water running like a dick. A few hours later, and he wakes up and sees a doctor with some jingle bells on it. A door. I said doctor. A door with some jingle bells on it. So, of course, after seeing that corpse in the bathroom, the only logical thing to do is open another door, right? I mean, there can't possibly be a second corpse in here, right? Well, no, as Josh stares at the door, Chris is sneaking up in the shadows. Josh sees him and starts to back away from the guy dressed as Santa Claus with a large machete. Chris stops in his tracks and drops the machete as Silent Night is being played from his music box. We pan over and we see Chris's dad holding the music box and a canister of gasoline. He doesn't even pour the gas. He tells Josh to run. And Dad doesn't even pour the gas anywhere, but drops the match as the music plays and the fire engulfs Chris and his father. Josh goes running as the fire burns. We now cut back to Jess and Ron driving still on the winding road. Ron says the cabin burned down and nobody is really sure if Chris died that night or not. Now that they've been driving for only God knows how long, Jess asks if Ron put the presents for Bill and Ellen in the car. Bitch, we've been driving for 2 hours almost. What the fuck do you mean, did I put the presents in the car? If I didn't, oh fucking well. Might have been something we needed to check on before we left. He thinks he put them in the trunk and Jess says, yeah, I think we need to pull over to make sure the gifts are there. So Ron pulls over, hops out of the car to check. We see him open the trunk of the car, and then when he closes it, and we hear some screaming behind the car and a thud. Roll credits. That's how this movie ends. We don't see if what do you call it, Ron dies. We don't see what happened. We don't see what happens with Jess. Literally, you hear the thump, thud. That's it. Roll credits and the movie's over. This is a 21-year-old movie. We'll talk about that here in a minute. Again, there's no there is no trivia to this. There's no how much money it made. Not even the day it was released. There's nothing on this movie. So let's go. I guess we just go straight to the review. It wasn't that bad. I'm not gonna give it shit for being a bad movie. It was okay. This movie is an hour and 22 or 23 minutes long. 100% this movie could have been over in 45 fucking minutes. Like, this movie did not need to be an hour and a half long. And it's almost as if the writer and director were told, hey, this movie needs to be an hour and 20 minutes minimum. So let's drag the shit out of 90% of this movie. You know the shower scene. Let's drag the shit out of the shower scene. You know them walking through the woods. Let's just drag the shit out of them walking through the woods. Let's drag the shit out of the burglars walking around and stalking the property. You know, it's just so much useless stuff in this movie. Kind of takes away from it. It really does take away from the movie. It's too long for not enough shit going on. That simple. Again, it came out in 2003, so I'm not going to give them shit about graphics. I'm not going to give them shit about, the way it looks. I will give them shit about the acting. The acting is terrible. So I'm going to knock points off for acting. I'm going to knock points off because, again, this movie should have been like 40 to 45 minutes long at most. And if you want it to be longer than that, you should have just added more shit. Add more kills. Show us the kills. Just do something other than I don't want to sit here for 10 minutes watching a brother and sister walk through the fucking woods. I don't want to sit here for 7 minutes while the burglars break into a house, walk around the house, and then all of a sudden a blind woman shows up. I don't want to see that. I want stuff to be happening. So at the end of the day, we will give this 2 3/4 Santa faces. It's just like I said. It could have been good. It could have been okay, like at least okay. But it's just so much. The movie just dragging on and on certain scenes took away from it. Like, I think I spent more time talking about the red hen and her breasts than I did any of the kills. Let's see. There's some reviews here. I think altogether it's rated like 2 out of 10. Very poor Yuletide slasher anthology. And it didn't even. That's the thing. It was an anthology movie. It wasn't supposed to be an anthology movie. It was supposed to be a story. Never said anything about an anthology or different tales or shit. This bad movie. Yeah, the storyline is thin. It drags along. Like I said, drags along. Every scene seems like it's twice as long as it should be. Yes, it is. Like I said, this movie could have been 45 minutes long. Now, in addition, the film quality is cheap. I'm not going to take points off of that. That's the thing. This was made in 2003 and it's low budget. I know this. I'm not going to give them shit for a low budget movie. I'm just not. Especially in 2003 or anything like that. But the acting, Alice was terrible. The girl who played Alice is awful. Jess, we don't ever. The girl who plays Jess, we've never seen again. Same thing with Ron. We don't. They've only been in two films. They have 2 credits to their name on IMDb. So at the end of the day, 2 3/4 of a star. Again, like I said, the story was okay. The stuff at the beginning was okay. The snarkiness between the husband and between Ron and Jess in the house was pretty funny. The scene with the 2 girls was okay, even though it was clearly only put in for tits and ass, factor. But the dragging on brings it down a lot, like the length of time they spent walking through the fucking woods, and we're focused, like the camera is focused on their feet. This 2 3/4 stars is what I feel. I almost want to say 2.5, but I think this was better than last week's movie, than Krampus. What was it? Krampus Unleashed, I think is what we watched last week. So many Krampus movies, but I think this was better than Krampus, but not by much. So once again, that'll do it, guys. You can find me everywhere at the Bloody Binge Movie Podcast. You can find me on X. You can find it as a group on Facebook, on the YouTube page. I'd like to get some more people on the YouTube page watching. Try to get the numbers up there so we get a little more advertising. Or at least put the word of mouth out there, guys. You can also find me on Twitch at SewerDweller78. I haven't played on there in a couple of months. I'm hoping to get back on soon. It's all going to depend on the time and I basically, between working, doing the research for this, I have very little time to play video games. On here, that is. I play on my PlayStation. Me and the wife go to bed at night playing Call of Duty until we both get tired and we go to bed. But unfortunately, I don't have Call of Duty on the computer. So, but hopefully I can get back on that here soon. This weekend, make sure you go visit Hell's Dungeon in Dayton, Ohio. Tonight, the movie Mayhem Night from 8 till midnight. Tomorrow morning, the Grinch comes to town for breakfast. You can have breakfast with the Grinch. And then finally, tomorrow night, the Holiday in Peril haunt. I still love Hell's Dungeon. I don't really want to retire, but fate tells me otherwise. I'm gonna miss acting. I'm gonna miss doing it and everything. I'm hoping to actually maybe move to the movie industry, but I don't even know how that's gonna play out or not. So we'll see what happens. But guys, I hope you guys enjoyed this. I hope you guys are still having a very good holiday season, and I hope everyone gets to watch some horror movies. I know some Christmas horror movies, that is. Nosferatu comes out in a couple of weeks. I can't wait for that. There's just so much going on. But guys, once again, take care of each other, and of course, keep watching horror movies. See you next week.